of God. And I hope that tonight you think for a moment on the fact that God became flesh. And one of the reasons why we have, for the last basically year, 2013, navigated through the scriptures, and most of the time we navigated through books of the Bible, is because we are trying to help us to hold us accountable that if we are going to love the incarnate Word, if we're going to love Jesus, we have to love also the written Word. I don't think there's an option on those things. And I'm afraid that sometimes as culture, we love to pick and choose one of the two. Especially when you look at a baby, because births are special to us. And you might be wondering why I look like a preacher tonight. Well, it's a birth, it's a celebration. So I either dress like this when you die, or I either dress like this when you bring a baby and you have a wedding. So tonight we're celebrating not your funeral, but we're looking at the birth of Jesus. So that's why it's a special night. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. Thank you again for being here. Now, what I want to do, I want to take a few minutes with you and ask you to go to the very last chapter of the book of Micah. Because I promise you that we're going to close the book tonight. I promise you that tonight we're going to come into this experience of basically departing from Micah and saying farewell to Micah. And that's why I'm asking you to go into chapter number 7 of this Old Testament prophet. So if you have a Bible, just go with me for a second, because what I'm going to do, I'm just going to walk you through multiple verses, and I won't take that long in a sense of just asking you to concentrate and focus with me on this chapter, because I believe this chapter, as you see and on the screen, it has to do with the goodness of God, the goodness of the King, and obviously the birth of Jesus is nothing else but something beautiful for the world. Now, as we have spoken for the last, basically, 4 weeks, because this is our 5th time to look into this, and this is our final time to do this, I want to remind you, just as a quick reminder, that the birth of Jesus, first and foremost, I want you to think with me for a second, because we're about to read a couple of those verses in just a second. But the birth of Jesus, first and foremost, Jesus provided the birth of this baby boy on a manger 2,000 years ago, provided something that no one needed. I'm going to say that one more time. See, people approach the first Christmas, and when I say people approach, I want to remind you that most of this community where he was born, they did not pay attention. They knew, because it's interesting to me that when the Magi show up and they come before Herod, Herod was completely oblivious of this whole new king deal. So he calls the religious leaders and says, hey, you're going to tell me what they're talking about. Oh yeah, prophecy says that in Bethlehem of Judea, the new king, the king of the Jews will be born. And here's the interesting thing. Once they affirm or they confirm and they share this message with King Herod, neither the king, neither the religious leaders went to check it out. Are you following me on this? It's interesting to me that they didn't go. They knew. So here's my point. What happens with the birth of Jesus is that people may have it conceptually, they might have it doctrinally, they might have it theologically, you may have it culturally because you were born in the United States, so that means that you probably know about Christmas. You grew up in Christmas celebrations, but you have never worshipped Jesus. So what happens is, again, I'm just asking you to think for a second, because when Micah begins chapter 7, he embraces this concept by asking us to think of this, and I want you to listen to the lament that you hear in here, because it seems to me that the lament is going to expose something that no one knew they needed. What mystery is mine, says the prophet. I am like one who gathers summer fruit at the gleaning of the vineyard. There is no cluster of grapes to eat, and none of the early figs that I crave. See, the prophet is using this language of physical hunger to demonstrate the spiritual hunger of these people. And I'm here to tell you again, I believe this is what Christmas does. Exposes this need that we don't realize we have. The faithful have been swept from the land. So I'm talking about, in the exile deal. Not one upright person remains. No righteous is among us, Micah is saying. Listen to this. Everyone lies in wait to shed blood. They hunt each other with nets. Both hands are skilled. This is what we call ambidextrous. Both hands are skilled to kill and doing evil. This is how wicked this generation is. It's not just accidental. It's not just one person. But it seems to me that both hands, they develop this. The ruler demands gifts. The judge, he accepts bribes. The powerful, they dictate what they desire, and they all conspire together. So please, just listen to this, because the issue that we're describing through Micah in chapter 7 is not this list of sins or corruption. The issue is that they have numbed themselves to the point that corruption has become life. Sin has become the norm. So listen to the words. The best of them is like a briar, the most upright worse than a thorn hedge. The day God visits you has come. The day you watchmen sound alarm, now is the time of your confusion. Do not trust a neighbor. Put no confidence in a friend, Micah says. Even with the woman who lies in your embrace, guard the words of your lips. In other words, there is no trustworthy person around you. This is a bad time to be married, to have children, to do celebrations. Listen to this. For a son, just in case that you haven't gotten the point, a son dishonors his father, a daughter rises up against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. So that's not changed a whole lot. A man's enemies are the members of his own household. And here's the problem. Everybody thinks that they're fine. And Micah said, no, you're not fine. Something is wrong. But listen to the words in here. But as for me, says the prophet, I watch in hope for the Lord. I continue to have this desire that I wait for God, my Savior. My God will hear me. Now here's what we think for a second. Because 2,000 years ago, this hope, 2,000 years ago for us, about 750,000 later for them, but about 2,000 for us, this verse became a reality. God finally became and went through. God finally revealed himself, and he finally heard the prayer from these people. The only issue with that, as I told you before, is that, again, this experience of God penetrating, literally piercing through history and becoming a human being, for most people in this generation, they did not get it. They did not perceive the implication of God becoming flesh. So I want to make sure that tonight, that's not our story, and this is why we have to evaluate if we, on a day like this, we as a generation, we are not in the same situation. Now, you may be reading verses 1 through 7, and that might be your story. That might be my story. Very similar, very dysfunctional families, a lot of brokenness, a lot of things that we don't really want to share, we don't want to think about. Christmas reminds us of some of those things. People that they're not with us and that we wish they were with us, and things that we can probably reverse. Let's not go family. How about 2013? Maybe for some of us, 2013 was a very difficult year. So here's what I want you to see. I want you to see that the next verses, they're going to help you to see. They're going to help you to see that if you put your faith in Jesus, God can take your verses 1 through 7 and really turn it for good. But here's the deal. Verses 9 and following, they're going to have to help us to trust and to develop our trust in the character of God. So I want you to listen to this. Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Listen to this. Though I have fallen, though I'm going through struggles, though verses 1 through 7 are not really foreign to me, I will rise. So, though I sit in darkness, here's the bottom line. The Lord, see, I want you to hear this. The Bible is not saying that He is going to take you away from darkness. So, I'm not over-promising a much better 2014. Are you following me on this? I'm not telling you that all of a sudden our government is going to turn things around. I'm not going to tell you your marriage suddenly just going to... Listen, I pray those things for you, and I'm going to continue to pray that you have a better 2014. But regardless of how dark 2013 was, and how potentially dark 2014 can potentially become, here's the bottom line. If God is your light, it doesn't matter how dark it is. It doesn't matter how dark it gets. Are you following me on this? See, the bottom line is this. The birth of Jesus moved us from avoiding darkness to pursuing light. When you approach the brand new baby boy, when you approach this King of Kings and Lord of Lords, you're not more concerned about darkness. And I will even say this. Let me just be very frank with you, because if you're visiting tonight and you haven't heard the whole series, I'm going to give it to you right now. Here's the bottom line. Darkness follows you because you and I come from darkness. In other words, what the Bible is not implying is that things happen, dysfunctionality follow you, and sin appear just because you married the wrong family. You brought it. You brought it with you. The whole thing of what happens is because we, again, I said this many times before, because we are not sinners because of our actions, because we sin. We sin because we're sinners. So here's the bottom line. Unless He shows up, there's nothing that we can do about our darkness. Because I have sinned against Him, I will bear the Lord's wrath. The prophet speaks and says, until He pleads my case and upholds my cause. See, last Sunday I spoke to you in this context of a courthouse. He will bring me out into the light, and I will see. So I hope that tonight, Christmas represents for you seeing the righteousness of God. I've been inviting you to think this over and over for the last 4 weeks. That Christmas is not about you getting a Savior. Christmas is about the glory of God being revealed to you, and through His glory you get saved. Christmas is not about just having a good family time. I'm all for family time. But when Jesus shows up in your family, you will have a good time. So Christmas is not about getting it your way. It's about you getting to see His righteousness. Getting to see. Now, here's the implication. If you're going to see His righteousness, that implies that it does not reside within you. That you don't have that righteousness. So again, don't approach Christmas assuming that you have it. You have to be open and transparent. And I'm going to bring you to something that is extremely important. I'm going to tell you why this is extremely important right now. Because again, this is where the Bible just takes the whole thing into a new conversation. Then my enemy, when I get to see the righteousness of God, which by the way, let me come back. So you can't get so distracted. Some of you look like 80. Listen to me. When you see the righteousness of God, it does not imply or does not guarantee that circumstances are going to change. In other words, Micah is speaking to a generation that unavoidably will experience exile. So trials and tribulation are coming your way, and they're going to have to come. Not because they misbehave, although they misbehave. Not because they broke the law, although they broke the law. It's not because they have sinned, although they have sinned. The reason why they're going to have to go through exile is because the character of God is at stake. So either you, Israel, as a nation, that's what Micah is saying, you will make me famous for my righteousness, or you're going to make me famous because of my holiness, which implies because I'm a holy God, I have no choice. I have to punish sin. So here's the point. When you see the righteousness of God, when you encounter this baby boy, does not imply automatically or guarantees that circumstances are going to change. The only thing that guarantees is what verse says is going to explain to you. It's going to say that my enemy will see it and will be covered with shame because of the righteousness of God. She who said to me, where is the Lord your God? Those who mock you, those who think that you've been defeated, those who think that there is no hope for you, my eyes will see her downfall. Listen to this. Even now, she will be trampled underfoot like mire in the streets. So here's what I want you to understand. The righteousness of God, when it's revealed to us, which in this case we believe is Jesus Christ, when this baby is born in a manger 2,000 years ago, something happened just beyond comprehension. And this is very, 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 very practical to me because I have 3 kids, and I still remember the birth of my first one. I don't know what happens with the first baby, but the first one obviously is the one that you experiment with, is the one that takes you by